Chapter 31. Jason. Jason would have died 5 times on the way to the front door if not for Leo. First it was the motion-activated trapdoor on the sidewalk, then the lasers on the steps, then the nerve gas dispenser on the porch railing, the pressure-sensitive poison spikes in the welcome mat, and of course the exploding doorbell. Leo deactivated all of them. It was like he could smell the traps, and he picked just the right tool out of his belt to disable them. "You're amazing, man," Jason said. Leo scowled as he examined the front door lock. "Yeah, amazing," he said. "Can't fix a dragon right, but I'm amazing." "Hey, that wasn't your—" "Front door's already unlocked," Leo announced. Piper stared at the door in disbelief. "It is. All those traps and the door's unlocked." Leo turned the knob. The door swung open easily. He stepped inside without hesitation. Before Jason could follow, Piper caught his arm. "He's going to need some time to get over Festus. Don't take it personally." "Yeah," Jason said. "Yeah, okay." But still he felt terrible. Back in Medea's store, he'd said some pretty harsh stuff to Leo. Stuff a friend shouldn't say, not to mention the fact he'd almost skewered Leo with a sword. If it hadn't been for Piper, they'd both be dead, and Piper hadn't got out of that encounter easily either. "Piper," he said, "I know I was in a daze back in Chicago, but that stuff about your dad, if he's in trouble, I want to help. I don't care if it's a trap or not." Her eyes were always different colours, but now they looked shattered, as if she'd seen something she just couldn't cope with. "Jason, you don't know what you're saying. Please, don't make me feel worse. Come on, we should stick together." She ducked inside. "Together," Jason said to himself. "Yeah, we're doing great with that." Jason's first impression of the house, dark. From the echo of his footsteps, he could tell the entry hall was enormous, even bigger than Boreas's penthouse. But the only illumination came from the yard lights outside. A faint glow peeked through the breaks in the thick velvet curtains. The windows rose about 10 feet tall, spaced between them. Along the walls were life-size metal statues. As Jason's eyes adjusted, he saw sofas arranged in a U in the middle of the room, with a central coffee table and one large chair at the far end. A massive chandelier glinted overhead. Along the back wall stood a row of closed doors. "Where's the light switch?" His voice echoed alarmingly through the room. "Don't see one," Leo said. "Fire?" Piper suggested. Leo held out his hand, but nothing happened. "It's not working." "Your fire is out. Why?" Piper asked. "Well, if I knew that—" "Oh, okay, she said. "What do we do, explore?" Leo shook his head. After all those traps outside, bad idea. Jason's skin tingled. He hated being a demigod. Looking around, he didn't see a comfortable room to hang out in. He imagined vicious storm spirits lurking in the curtains, dragons under the carpet, a chandelier made of lethal ice shards ready to impale them. "Leo's right," he said. "We're not separating again. Not like in Detroit." "Oh, thank you for reminding me of the Cyclopses," Piper's voice quavered. "I needed that." "It's a few hours until dawn," Jason guessed. "Too cold to wait outside. Let's bring the cages in and make camp in this room. Wait for daylight. Then we can decide what to do." Nobody offered a better idea, so they rolled in the cages with Coach Hedge and the storm spirits. They settled in. Thankfully, Leo didn't find any poison, throw pillows, or electric whoopee cushions on the sofas. Leo didn't seem in the mood to make more tacos. Besides, they had no fire, so they settled for cold rations. As Jason ate, he studied the metal statues along the walls. They looked like Greek gods or heroes. Maybe that was a good sign. Or maybe they were used for target practice. On the coffee table sat a tea service and a stack of glossy brochures, but Jason couldn't make out the words. The big chair at the end of the table looked like a throne. None of them tried to sit on it. The canary cages didn't make the place any less creepy. The venti kept churning in their prison, hissing and spinning, and Jason got the uncomfortable feeling they were watching him. He could sense their hatred for the children of Zeus, the Lord of the Sky who'd ordered Aeolus to imprison their kind. The venti would like nothing better than to tear Jason apart. As for Coach Hedge, he was still frozen mid-shout, his cudgel raised. Leo was working on the cage, trying to open it with various tools, but the lock seemed to be giving him a hard time. Jason decided not to sit next to him in case Hedge suddenly unfroze and went into a ninja goat mode. Despite how wired he felt, once his stomach was full, Jason started to nod off. The couches were a little too comfortable. A lot better than a dragon's back, and he'd taken the last 2 watches while his friends slept. He was exhausted. Piper had already curled up on the other sofa. Jason wondered if she was really asleep or dodging a conversation about her dad. Whatever Medea had meant in Chicago about Piper getting her dad back if she cooperated, it didn't sound good. If Piper had risked her own dad to save them, that made Jason feel even guiltier. And they were running out of time. If Jason had his days straight, this was early morning of 20th of December, which meant tomorrow was the winter solstice. "Get some sleep," Leo said. "Still working on the lock cage." It's your turn. Jason took a deep breath. Leo, I'm sorry about that stuff I said in Chicago. That wasn't me. You're not annoying, and you do take stuff seriously, especially your work. I wish I could do half the things you can do. Leo lowered his screwdriver. He looked at the ceiling and shook his head like, what am I going to do with this guy? I try very hard to be annoying, Leo said. Don't insult my ability to annoy. And how am I supposed to resent you if you go on apologizing? I'm a lowly mechanic. You're like the Prince of the Sky, son of the Lord of the Universe. I'm supposed to resent you? Lord of the Universe. Sure, you're all, bam, lightning man, and watch me fly, I am the eagle that soars. Shut up, Valdez. Leo managed a little smile. Yes, see, I do annoy you. I apologize for apologizing. Thank you. He went back to work, but the tension had eased between them. Leo still looked sad and exhausted, just not quite so angry. Go to sleep, Jason, he ordered. It's going to take a few hours to get this Goatman free. Then I still got to figure out how to make the Winds a smaller holding cell, because I am not lugging that canary cage to California. You did fix Festus, you know, Jason said. You gave him a purpose again. I think this quest was the high point of his life. Jason was afraid he'd blown it and made Leo mad again, but Leo just sighed. I hope, he said. Now sleep, man. I want some time without you organic life forms. Jason wasn't quite sure what that meant, but he didn't argue. He closed his eyes and had a long, blissfully dreamless sleep. He only woke when the yelling started. Ah! Jason leapt to his feet. He wasn't sure what was more jarring, the full sunlight that now bathed the room or the screaming satyr. Coach is awake, Leo said, which was kind of unnecessary. Gleason Hedge was capering around on his furry hindquarters, swinging his club and yelling, Die! As he smashed the tea set, whacking the sofas and charged at the throne. Coach! Jason yelled. Hedge turned, breathing hard. His eyes were so wild, Jason was afraid he might attack. The satyr was still wearing his orange polo shirt and his coach's whistle, but his horns were clearly visible above his curly hair, and his beefy hindquarters were definitely all goat. Could you call a goat beefy? Jason put the thought aside. You're the new kid, Hedge said, lowering his club. Jason. He looked at Leo, then Piper, who'd apparently also just woken up. Her hair looked like it had become a nest for a friendly hamster. Valdez. McLean, the coach said. What's going on? We were at the Grand Canyon. The Anamwa Fulaya were attacking and... He zeroed in on the Storm Spirit cage and his eyes went back to DEFCON 1. Die! Whoa, coach! Leo stepped in his path, which was pretty brave, even though Hedge was 6 inches shorter. It's okay. They're locked up. We just sprang you from the other cage. Cage? Cage? What's going on? Just because I'm a satyr doesn't mean I can't have you doing plank push-ups, Valdez. Jason cleared his throat. Coach, Gleason, whatever you want us to call you. You saved us at the Grand Canyon. You were totally brave. Of course I was. The extraction team came and took us to Camp Half-Blood. We thought we'd lost you. Then we got word the Storm Spirits had taken you back to their, operator, Medea. That witch. Wait, that's impossible. She's mortal. She's dead. Yeah, well, Leo said, somehow she got not dead anymore. Hedge nodded, his eyes narrowing. So, you were sent on a dangerous quest to rescue me? Excellent. Piper got to her feet, holding out her hands so Coach Hedge wouldn't attack her. Actually, can I still call you Coach Hedge? Gleason seems wrong. We're on a quest for something else. We kind of found you by accident. Oh. The coach's spirits seemed to deflate, but only for a second. Then his eyes lit up again. But there are no accidents. Not on quests. This was meant to happen. So, this is the witch's lair, eh? Why is everything gold? Gold? Jason looked around. From the way Leo and Piper caught their breath, he guessed they hadn't noticed yet either. The room was full of gold. The statues, the tea set Hedge had smashed, the chair that was definitely a throne, even the curtains, which seemed to have opened by themselves at daybreak, appeared to be woven of gold fibre. Nice, Leo said. No wonder they've got so much security. This isn't... Piper stammered. This isn't Medea's place, Coach. It's some rich person's mansion in Omaha. We got away from Medea and crash-landed here. It's destiny, cupcakes, Hedge insisted. I'm meant to protect you. What's the quest? Before Jason could decide if he wanted to explain or just shove Coach Hedge back into his cage, a door opened at the far end of the room. A pudgy man in a white bathrobe stepped out with a golden toothbrush in his mouth. He had a white beard and one of those long, old-fashioned sleeping caps pressed down over his white hair. He froze when he saw them, and the toothbrush fell out of his mouth. He glanced into the room behind him and called, Son? Lit. Come out here, please. There are strange people in the throne room. Coach Hedge did the obvious thing. He raised his club and shouted, Die! Chapter 32. Jason. It took all three of them to hold back the satyr. "Whoa, coach," Jason said. "Bring it down a few notches." A younger man charged into the room. Jason guessed he must be Lit, the old guy's son. He was dressed in pyjama bottoms with a sleeveless t-shirt that said Corn Huskers, and he held a sword that looked like it could husk a lot of things besides corn. His ripped arms were covered in scars, and his face, framed by curly dark hair, would have been handsome if it wasn't also sliced up. Lit immediately zeroed in on Jason like he was the biggest threat, and stalked towards him, swinging his sword overhead. "Hold on." Piper stepped forward, trying for her best calming voice. "This is just a misunderstanding. Everything's fine." Lit stopped in his tracks, but he still looked wary. It didn't help that Hedge was screaming, "I'll get them, don't worry." "Coach," Jason pleaded, "they may be friendly. Besides, we're trespassing in their house." "Thank you," said the old man in the bathrobe. "Now, who are you, and why are you here?" "Let's all put our weapons down," Piper said. "Coach, you first." Hedge clenched his jaw. "Just one thwack?" "No," Piper said. "What about a compromise? I'll kill them first, and if it turns out they were friendly, I'll apologise." "No," Piper insisted. Coach Hedge lowered his club. Piper gave Lit a friendly sorry about that smile. Even if her hair messed up and wearing 2-day-old clothes, she looked extremely cute, and Jason felt a little jealous she was giving Lit that smile. Lit huffed and sheathed his sword. "You speak well, girl. Fortunately for your friends, or I would have run them through." "Appreciate it," Leo said. "I try not to get run through before lunchtime." The old man in the bathrobe sighed, kicking the teapot that Coach Hedge had smashed. "Well, since you're here, please sit down." Lit frowned. "Your Majesty." No, it's fine, Lit," the old man said. "New land, new customs. They may sit in my presence. After all, they've seen me in my nightclothes. No sense observing formalities." He did his best to smile, though it looked a little forced. "Welcome to my humble home. I am King Midas." "Midas? Impossible," said Coach Hedge. "He died." They were sitting on the sofas now, while the king reclined on his throne. Tricky to do that in a bathrobe, and Jason kept worrying the old guy would forget and uncross his legs. Hopefully he was wearing golden boxers under there. Lit stood behind the throne, both hands on his sword, glancing at Piper and flexing his muscular arms, just to be annoying. Jason wondered if he looked that ripped holding a sword. Sadly, he doubted it. Piper sat forward. "What our satyr friend means, Your Majesty, is that you're the second mortal we've met who should be, dead. King Midas lived thousands of years ago." "Interesting." The king gazed out of the windows at the brilliant blue skies and the winter sunlight. In the distance, downtown Omaha looked like a cluster of children's blocks. Way too clean and small for a regular city. "You know," the king said, "I think I was a bit dead for a while. It's strange. Seems like a dream, doesn't it, Lit?" "A very long dream, Your Majesty. And yet now we're here. I'm enjoying myself very much. I like being alive better." "But how?" Piper asked. You didn't happen to have a patron?" Midas hesitated, but there was a sly twinkle in his eyes. "Does it matter, my dear?" "We could kill them again," Hedge suggested. "Coach, not helping," Jason said. "Why don't you go outside and stand guard?" Leo coughed. "Is that safe? They've got some serious security." "Oh yes," the king said. "Sorry about that, but it's lovely stuff, isn't it? Amazing what gold can still buy. Such excellent toys you have in this country." He fished a remote control out of his bathrobe pocket and pressed a few buttons. A passcode, Jason guessed. "There," Midas said. "Safe to go out now." Coach Hedge grunted. "Fine, but if you need me." He winked at Jason meaningfully, and then he pointed at himself, pointed 2 fingers at their hosts, and sliced a finger across his throat. Very subtle sign language. "Yeah, thanks," Jason said. After the satyr left, Piper tried another diplomatic smile. "So, you don't know how you got here?" "Oh, well, yes, sort of," the king said. He frowned at Lit. "Why did we pick Omaha again? I know it wasn't the weather." "The Oracle," Lit said. "Yes, I was told there was an oracle in Omaha." The king shrugged. "Apparently I was mistaken, but this is a rather nice house, isn't it? Lit, it's short for Literasis. By the way, horrible name, but his mother insisted. Lit has plenty of wide open space to practice his swordplay. He has quite a reputation for that. They called him the Reaper of Men back in the old days." "Oh," Piper tried to sound enthusiastic. "How nice." Lit's smile was more of a cruel sneer. Jason was now 100% sure he didn't like this guy, and he was starting to regret sending Hedge outside. "So," Jason said, "all this gold." The king's eyes lit up. "Are you here for gold, my boy? Please take a brochure." Jason looked at the brochures on the coffee table. The title said, "Gold, invest for eternity." You sell gold?" No, the king said, "I make it. In uncertain times like these, gold is the wisest investment, don't you think? Governments fall, the dead rise, giants attack Olympus, but gold retains its value. Leo frowned. I've seen that commercial. Oh, don't be fooled by cheap imitators, the king said. I assure you I can beat any price for a serious investor. I can make a wide assortment of gold items at a moment's notice. But, Piper shook her head in confusion. Your Majesty, you gave up the golden touch, didn't you? The king looked astonished. Gave it up? Yes, Piper said. You got it from some god. Dionysus, the king agreed. I'd rescued one of his satyrs. In return, the god granted me one wish. I chose the golden touch. But you accidentally turned your own daughter to gold, Piper remembered, and you realized how greedy you'd been, so you repented. Repented? King Midas looked at Lit incredulously. You see, son, you're away for a few thousand years and the story gets twisted all around. My dear girl, did those stories ever say I'd lost my magic touch? Well, I guess not. They just said you learned how to reverse it with running water, and you brought your daughter back to life. That's all true. Sometimes I still have to reverse my touch. There's no running water in the house because I don't want accidents. He gestured to his statues. But we chose to live next to a river just in case. Occasionally I'll forget and pat Lit on the back. Lit retreated a few steps. I hate that. I told you I was sorry, son. At any rate, gold is wonderful. Why would I give it up? Well, Piper looked truly lost now. Isn't that the point of the story? That you learned your lesson? Midas laughed. My dear, may I see your backpack for a moment? Toss it here. Piper hesitated, but she wasn't eager to offend the king. She dumped everything out of the pack and tossed it to Midas. As soon as he caught it, the pack turned to gold, like frost spreading across the fabric. It still looked flexible and soft, but definitely gold. The king tossed it back. As you see, I can still turn anything to gold, Midas said. That pack is magic now as well. Go ahead, put your little storm spirit enemies in there. Seriously? Leo was suddenly interested. He took the bag from Piper and held it up to the cage. As soon as he unzipped the backpack, the wind stirred and howled in protest. The cage bars shuddered. The door of the prison flew open, and the winds got vacuumed straight into the pack. Leo zipped it shut and grinned. Got to admit, that's cool. You see, Midas said, my golden touch is a curse? Please, I didn't learn any lesson, and life isn't a story, girl. Honestly, my daughter Zoe was much more pleasant as a gold statue. She talked a lot, Lit offered. Exactly, and so I turned her back to gold. Midas pointed. There in the corner was a golden statue of a girl, with a shocked expression, as if she was thinking, Dad! That's horrible, Piper said. Nonsense! She doesn't mind. Besides, if I'd learned my lesson, would I have got these? Midas pulled off his oversized sleeping cap, and Jason didn't know whether to laugh or get sick. Midas had long fuzzy grey ears sticking up from his white hair, like Bugs Bunny's. But they weren't rabbit ears, they were donkey ears. Oh, wow, Leo said. I didn't need to see that. Terrible, isn't it? Midas sighed. A few years after the Golden Touch incident, I judged a music contest between Apollo and Pan, and I declared Pan the winner. Apollo, sore loser, said I must have the ears of an ass, and voila! This was my reward for being truthful. I tried to keep them a secret. Only my barber knew, but he couldn't help blabbing. Midas pointed out another golden statue. A bald man in a toga, holding a pair of shears. That's him. He won't be telling anyone's secrets again. The king smiled. Suddenly he didn't strike Jason as a harmless old man in a bathrobe. His eyes had a merry glow to them, the look of a madman who knew he was mad, accepted his madness and enjoyed it. Yes, gold has many uses. I think that must be why I was brought back, eh, Lit? To bankroll our patron. Lit nodded. That and my good sword arm. Jason glanced at his friends. Suddenly the air in the room seemed much colder. So you do have a patron, Jason said. You work for the giants. King Midas waved his hand dismissively. Well, I don't care for giants myself, of course, but even supernatural armies need to get paid. I do owe my patron a great debt. I tried to explain that to the last group that came through, but they were very unfriendly, wouldn't cooperate at all. Jason slipped his hand into his pocket and grabbed his gold coin. The last group? Hunters, Lit snarled. Blasted girls from Artemis. Jason felt a spark of electricity. A literal spark travelled down his spine. He caught a whiff of electrical fire, like he just melted some of the springs in the sofa. His sister had been here. When? He demanded. What happened? Lit shrugged. Few days ago? I didn't get to kill them, unfortunately. They were looking for some evil wolves or something. Said they were following a trail, heading west. Missing demigod, I don't recall. Percy Jackson, Jason thought. Annabeth had mentioned the hunters were looking for him, and in Jason's dream of the burnt-out house in the redwoods, he'd heard enemy wolves baying. Hera had called them her keepers. It had to be connected somehow. Midas scratched his donkey ears. Very unpleasant young ladies, those hunters, he recalled. They absolutely refuse to be turned into gold. Much of the security system outside I installed to keep that sort of thing from happening again. You know, I don't have time for those who aren't serious investors. Jason stood warily and glanced at his friends. They got the message. Well, Piper said, managing a smile, it's been a great visit. Welcome back to life. Thanks for the gold bag. Oh, but you can't leave, Midas said. I know you're not serious investors, but that's all right. I have to rebuild my collection. Lit was smiling cruelly. The king rose, and Leo and Piper moved away from him. Don't worry, the king assured them. You don't have to be turned to gold. I give all my guests a choice. Join my collection or die at the hands of the Tyresis. Really, it's good either way. Piper tried to use her charm speak. Your Majesty, you can't. Quicker than any old man should have been able to move, Midas lashed out and grabbed her wrist. No, Jason yelled, but a frost of gold spread over Piper, and in a heartbeat she was a glittering statue. Leo tried to summon fire, but he'd forgotten his power wasn't working. Midas touched his hand and Leo transformed into solid metal. Jason was so horrified he couldn't move. His friends, just gone, and he hadn't been able to stop it. Midas smiled apologetically. Gold trumps fire, I'm afraid. He waved around him at all the gold curtains and furniture. In this room, my power dampens all others. Fire, even charm speak. Which leaves me only one more trophy to collect. Hedge, Jason yelled. Need help in here? For once, the satyr didn't charge in. Jason wondered if the lasers had got him, or if he was sitting at the bottom of a trap pit. Midas chuckled. No goat to the rescue? Sad. But don't worry, my boy, it's really not painful. Lit can tell you. Jason fixed on an idea. I'd choose combat. You said I could choose to fight Lit instead. Midas looked mildly disappointed, but he shrugged. I said you could die fighting Lit, but of course, if you wish. The king backed away, and Lit raised his sword. I'm going to enjoy this, Lit said. I am the Reaper of Men. Come on, Cornhusker. Jason summoned his own weapon. This time it came up as a javelin, and Jason was glad for the extra length. Oh, gold weapon, Midas said. Very nice. Lit charged. The guy was fast. He slashed and sliced, and Jason could barely dodge the strikes. But his mind went into a different mode, analysing patterns, learning Lit's style, which was all offence, no defence. Jason countered, sidestepped and blocked. Lit seemed surprised to find him still alive. What is that style? Lit growled. You don't fight like a Greek. Legion training, Jason said, though he wasn't sure how he knew that. It's Roman. Roman? Lit struck again, and Jason deflected his blade. What is Roman? Newsflash, Jason said. While you were dead, Rome defeated Greece, created the greatest empire of all time. Impossible, Lit said. Never even heard of them. Jason spun on one heel, smacked Lit in the chest with the butt of his javelin, and sent him toppling into Midas's throne. Oh dear, Midas said. Lit? I'm fine, Lit growled. You'd better help him up, Jason said. Lit cried. Dad, no! Too late. Midas put his hand on his son's shoulder, and suddenly a very angry-looking gold statue was sitting on Midas's throne. Curses! Midas wailed. That was a naughty trick, demigod. I'll get you for that. He patted Lit's golden shoulder. Don't worry, son. I'll get you down to the river right after I collect this prize. Midas raced forward. Jason dodged, but the old man was fast too. Jason kicked the coffee table into the old man's legs and knocked him over, but Midas wouldn't stay down for long. Then Jason glanced at Piper's golden statue. Anger washed over him. He was the son of Zeus. He could not fail his friends. He felt a tugging sensation in his gut, and the air pressure dropped so rapidly that his ears popped. Midas must have felt it too, because he stumbled to his feet and grabbed his donkey ears. Ow! What are you doing? He demanded. My power is supreme here. Thunder rumbled. Outside, the sky turned black. You know, another good use for gold, Jason said. Midas raised his eyebrows, suddenly excited. Yes? It's an excellent conductor of electricity. Jason raised his javelin, and the ceiling exploded. A lightning bolt ripped through the roof like it was an eggshell, connected with the tip of Jason's spear, and sent out arcs of energy that blasted the sofas to shreds. Chunks of ceiling plaster crashed down. The chandelier groaned and snapped off its chain, and Midas screamed as it pinned him to the floor. The glass immediately turned into gold. When the rumbling stopped, freezing rain poured into the building. Midas cursed in ancient Greek, thoroughly pinned under his chandelier. The rain soaked everything, turning the gold chandelier back to glass. Piper and Leo were slowly changing too, along with the other statues in the room. Then the front door burst open and Coach Hedge charged in, club ready. His mouth was covered with dirt, snow and grass. What did I miss? He asked. Where were you? Jason demanded. His head was spinning from summoning the lightning bolt, and it was all he could do to keep from passing out. I was screaming for help. Hedge belched. Getting a snack. Sorry, who needs killing? No one now, Jason said. Just grab Leo. I'll get Piper. Don't leave me like this, Midas wailed. All around him the statues of his victims were turning to flesh. His daughter, his barber, and a whole lot of angry-looking guys with swords. Jason grabbed Piper's golden bag and his own supplies. Then he threw a rug over the golden statue of Lit on the throne. Hopefully that would keep the Reaper of Men from turning back to flesh, at least until after Midas's victims did. Let's get out of here, Jason told Hedge. I think these guys will want some quality time with Midas. Chapter 33. Piper. Piper woke up cold and shivering. She'd had the worst dream about an old guy with donkey ears chasing her around and shouting, "You're it." Oh God, her teeth chattered. He turned me to gold. You're okay now? Jason leaned over and tucked a warm blanket around her, but she still felt as cold as Boread. She blinked, trying to figure out where they were. Next to her, a campfire blazed, turning the air sharp with smoke. Firelight flickered against rock walls. They were in a shallow cave, but it didn't offer much protection. Outside, the wind howled. Snow blew sideways. It might have been day or night. The storm made it too dark to tell. Leo? Piper managed. Present and ungoldified. Leo was also wrapped in blankets. He didn't look great, but better than Piper felt. I got the precious metal treatment too, he said, but I came out of it fast. I don't know why. We had to dunk you in the river to get you back completely. Tried to dry you off, but it's really, really cold. You've got hypothermia, Jason said. We risked as much nectar as we could. Coach Hedge did a little nature magic. Sports medicine. The coach's ugly face loomed over her. Kind of a hobby of mine. Your breath might smell like wild mushrooms and Gatorade for a few days, but it'll pass. You probably won't, well, you won't die. Probably. Thanks, Piper said weakly. How did you beat Midas? Jason told her the story, putting most of it down to luck. The coach snorted. Kid's being modest. You should have seen him. Hi-ya, slice, boom with the lightning. Coach, you didn't even see it, Jason said. You were outside eating the lawn. But the satyr was just warming up. Then I came in with my club, and we dominated that room. Afterwards, I told him, Kid, I'm proud of you. If you could just work on your upper body strength. Coach, said Jason. Yeah? Shut up, please. Sure. The coach sat down at the fire and started chewing his cudgel. Jason put his hand on Piper's forehead and checked her temperature. Leo, can you stoke the fire? On it. Leo summoned a baseball-sized clump of flames and lobbed it into the campfire. Do I look that bad? Piper shivered. Nah, Jason said. You're a terrible liar, she said. Where are we? Pikes Peak, Jason said. Colorado. But that's, 500 miles from Omaha? Something like that, Jason agreed. I harnessed the storm spirits to bring us this far. They didn't like it, went a little faster than I wanted, almost crashed us into the mountainside before I could get them back in the bag. I'm not going to be trying that again. Why are we here? Leo sniffed. That's what I asked him. Jason gazed into the storm as if watching for something. That glittery wind trail we saw yesterday. It was still in the sky, though it had faded a lot. I followed it until I couldn't see it anymore, and then, honestly, I'm not sure. I just felt like this was the right place to stop. Course it is. Coach Hedge spat out some cudgel splinters. Aeolus's floating palace should be anchored above us, right at the peak. This is one of his favourite spots to dock. Maybe that was it. Jason knitted his eyebrows. I don't know, something else too. The hunters. The hunters were heading west, Piper remembered. Do you think they're around here? Jason rubbed his forearm as if the tattoos were bothering him. I don't see how anyone could survive on the mountain right now. The storm's pretty bad. It's already the evening before the solstice. But we didn't have much choice except to wait out the storm here. We had to give you some time to rest before we tried moving. He didn't need to convince her. The wind howling outside the cave scared her, and she couldn't stop shivering. We have to get you warm. Jason sat next to her and held out his arms a little awkwardly. You mind if I suppose. She tried to sound nonchalant. He put his arms around her and held her. They scooted closer to the fire. Coach Hedge chewed on his club and spat splinters into the fire. Leo broke out some cooking supplies, started frying burger patties on an iron skillet. So, guys, long as you're cuddled up for the story time, something I've been meaning to tell you. On the way to Omaha, I had this dream. Kind of hard to understand with the static and the Wheel of Fortune breaking in. Wheel of Fortune? Piper assumed Leo was kidding, but when he looked up from his burgers, his expression was deadly serious. The thing is, he said, my dad, Hephaestus, talked to me. Leo told him about his dream. In the firelight, with the wind howling, the story was even creepier. Piper could imagine the static-filled voice of the god warning about giants who were the sons of Tartarus, and about Leo losing some friends along the way. She tried to concentrate on something good, Jason's arms around her, the warmth slowly spreading into her body, but she was terrified. I don't understand. If demigods and gods have to work together to kill the giants, why would the gods stay silent, if they need us? Ha, said Coach Hedge. The gods hate needing humans. They like to be needed by humans, but not the other way round. Things will have to get a whole lot worse before Zeus admits he made a mistake closing Olympus. Coach, Piper said, that was almost an intelligent comment. Hedge huffed. What? I'm intelligent. I'm not surprised you cupcakes haven't heard of the giant war. The gods don't like to talk about it. Bad PR to admit you needed mortals to help beat an enemy. That's just embarrassing. There's more, though, Jason said. When I dreamed about Hera in her cage, she said Zeus was acting unusually paranoid. And Hera, she said she went to those ruins because a voice had been speaking in her head. What if someone's influencing the gods, like Medea influenced us? Piper shuddered. She'd had a similar thought, that some force they couldn't see was manipulating things behind the scenes, helping the giants. Maybe the same force was keeping Enceladus informed about their movements, and had even knocked their dragon out the sky over Detroit. Perhaps Leo's sleeping dirt woman, or another servant of hers. Leo set hamburger buns on the skillet to toast. Yeah, Hephaestus said something similar, like Zeus was acting weirder than usual. But what bothered me was the stuff my dad didn't say. Like a couple of times he was talking about the demigods, and how he had so many kids and all. I don't know. He acted like getting the greatest demigods together was going to be almost impossible. Like Hera was trying, but it was a really stupid thing to do. And there was some secret Hephaestus wasn't supposed to tell me. Jason shifted. Piper could feel the tension in his arms. Chiron was the same way back at camp, he said. He mentioned a sacred oath, not to discuss. Something. Coach, you know anything about that? Nah, I'm just a satyr. They don't tell us the juicy stuff, especially an old... He stopped himself. An old guy like you? Piper asked. But you're not that old, are you? 106, the coach muttered. Leo coughed. Say what? Don't catch your panties on fire, Valdez. That's just 53 in human years. Still, yeah, I made some enemies on the Council of Cloven Elders. I've been a protector a long time, but they started saying I was getting unpredictable, too violent. Can you imagine? Wow, Piper tried not to look at her friends. That's hard to believe. Coach scowled. Yeah, then finally we get a good war going with the Titans, and do they put me on the front lines? No, they send me as far away as possible. The Canadian frontier, can you believe it? Then, after the war, they put me out to pasture, the wilderness school. Bah! Like I'm too old to be helpful just because I like playing offence. All those flower pickers on the council, talking about nature. I thought satyrs liked nature, Piper ventured. Shoot, I love nature, Hedge said. Nature means big things, killing and eating little things. And when you're a vertically challenged satyr like me, you get in good shape. You carry a big stick and you don't take nothing from no one. That's nature. Hedge snorted indignantly. Flower pickers, anyway. Hope you've got something vegetarian cooking, Valdez. I don't do flesh. Yeah, Coach, don't eat your cudgel. I've got some tofu patties here. Piper's a vegetarian too. I'll throw them on in a second. The smell of frying burgers filled the air. Piper usually hated the smell of cooking meat, but her stomach rumbled like it wanted to mutiny. I'm losing it, she thought. Think broccoli, carrots, lentils. Her stomach wasn't the only thing rebelling. Lying by the fire, with Jason holding her, Piper's conscience felt like a hot bullet slowly working its way towards her heart. All the guilt she'd been holding in for the last week, since the giant Enceladus had first sent her a dream, was about to kill her. Her friends wanted to help her. Jason even said he'd walk into a trap to save her dad, and Piper had shut them out. For all she knew, she'd already doomed her father when she attacked Medea. She choked back a sob. Maybe she'd done the right thing in Chicago by saving her friends, but she'd only delayed her problem. She could never betray her friends, but the tiniest part of her was desperate enough to think, what if I did? She tried to imagine what her dad would say. Hey, Dad, if you were ever chained up by a cannibal giant and I had to betray a couple of friends to save you, what should I do? Funny, that had never come up when they did any free questions. Her dad would never take the question seriously, of course. He'd probably tell her one of Grandpa Tom's old stories, something with glowing hedgehogs and talking birds, and then laugh about it as if the advice was silly. Piper wished she remembered her grandpa better. Sometimes she dreamed about that little 2-room house in Oklahoma. She wondered what it would have been like to grow up there. Her dad would think that was nuts. He had spent his whole life running away from that place, distancing himself from the res, playing any role except Native American. He'd always told Piper how lucky she was to grow up rich and well cared for in a nice house in California. She'd learned to be vaguely uncomfortable about her ancestry, like Dad's old pictures from the 80s, when he'd feathered hair and crazy clothes. "Can you believe I ever looked like that?" he'd say. Being Cherokee was the same way for him, something funny and mildly embarrassing. But what else were they? Dad didn't seem to know. Maybe that's why he was always so unhappy, changing roles. Maybe that's why Piper started stealing things, looking for something her dad couldn't give her. Leo put tofu patties on the skillet. The wind kept raging. Piper thought of an old story her dad had told her, one that maybe did answer some of her questions. One day in second grade, she'd come home in tears and demanded why her father had named her Piper. The kids were making fun of her because Piper Cherokee was a kind of aeroplane. Her dad laughed, as if that had never occurred to him. "No, Pipes. Fine aeroplane. That's not how I named you. Grandpa Tom picked out your name. First time he heard you cry, he said you had a powerful voice. Better than any reed flute, Piper. He said you'd learn to sing the hardest Cherokee songs, even the snake song." The snake song? Dad told her the legend, how one day a Cherokee woman had seen a snake playing too near her children and killed it with a rock, not realizing it was the king of rattlesnakes. The snakes prepared for war on the humans, but the woman's husband tried to make peace. He promised he'd do anything to repay the rattlesnakes. The snakes held him to his word. They told him to send his wife to the well so the snakes could bite her and take her life in exchange. The man was heartbroken, but he did what they asked. Afterwards, the snakes were impressed that the man had given up so much and kept his promise. They taught him the snake song for all the Cherokee to use. From that point on, if any Cherokee met a snake and sang that song, the snake would recognize the Cherokee as a friend and would not bite. "That's awful," Piper had said. "He let his wife die." Her dad spread his hands. It was a hard sacrifice, but one life brought generations of peace between snakes and Cherokee. Grandpa Tom believed that Cherokee music could solve almost any problem. He thought you'd know lots of songs and be the greatest musician of the family. That's why we named you Piper. A hard sacrifice. Had her grandfather foreseen something about her, even when she was a baby? Had he sensed she was a child of Aphrodite? Her dad would probably tell her that was crazy. Grandpa Tom was no oracle. But still, she'd made a promise to help him on this quest. Her friends were counting on her. They'd saved her when Midas had turned her to gold. They brought her back to life. She couldn't repay them with lies. Gradually, she started to feel warmer. She stopped shivering and settled against Jason's chest. Leo handed out the food. Piper didn't want to move, talk, or do anything to disrupt the moment, but she had to. "We need to talk." She sat up so she could face Jason. "I don't want to hide anything from you guys anymore." They looked at her with their mouths full of burger. Too late to change her mind now. 3 nights before the Grand Canyon trip, she said, I had a dream vision, a giant telling me my father had been taken hostage. He told me I had to cooperate, or my dad would be killed. The flames crackled. Finally, Jason said, "Enceladus? You mentioned that name before." Coach Hedge whistled. "Big giant, breathes fire. Not somebody I'd want barbecuing my daddy goat." Jason gave him a shut-up look. "Piper, go on. What happened next?" I tried to reach my dad, but all I got was his personal assistant, and she told me not to worry." "Jane," Leo remembered. "Didn't Medea say something about controlling her?" Piper nodded. "To get my dad back, I had to sabotage this quest. I didn't realise it would be the 3 of us. Then after we started it, Enceladus sent me another warning. He told me he wanted you 2 dead. He wants me to lead you to a mountain. I don't know exactly which one, but it's in the Bay Area. I could see the Golden Gate Bridge from the summit. I have to be there by noon on the solstice, tomorrow. An exchange." She couldn't meet her friends' eyes. She waited for them to yell at her, or turn their backs, or kick her out into the snowstorm. Instead, Jason scooted next to her and put his arm around her again. "God, Piper, I'm so sorry." Leo nodded. "No kidding. You've been carrying this around for a week? Piper, we could help you." She glared at them. "Why don't you yell at me or something? I was ordered to kill you." "Oh, come on," Jason said. "You've saved us both on this quest. I put my life in your hands any day." "Same," Leo said. "Can I have a hug too?" "You don't get it," Piper said. "I've probably just killed my dad telling you this." "I doubt it." Coach Hedge belched. He was eating his tofu burger folded inside the paper plate, chewing it all like a taco. "Giant hasn't got what he wants yet, so he still needs your dad for leverage. He'll wait until the deadline passes, see if you show up. He wants you to divert the quest to this mountain, right?" Piper nodded uncertainly. So that means Hera is being kept somewhere else, Hedge reasoned. And she has to be saved by the same day, so you have to choose. Rescue your dad or rescue Hera. If you go after Hera, then Enceladus takes care of your dad. Besides, Enceladus would never let you go even if you cooperated. You're obviously one of the 7 in the Great Prophecy. One of the 7. She talked about this before with Jason and Leo, and she supposed it must be true. But she still had trouble believing it. She didn't feel that important. She was just a stupid child of Aphrodite. How could she be worth deceiving and killing? So, we have no choice, she said miserably. We have to save Hera, or the Giant King gets unleashed. That's our quest. The world depends on it. And Enceladus seems to have some, ways of watching me. He isn't stupid. He'll know if we change course and go the wrong way. He'll kill my dad. He's not going to kill your dad, Leo said. We'll save him. We don't have time, Piper cried. Besides, it's a trap. We're your friends, Beauty Queen, Leo said. We're not going to let your dad die. We just got to figure out a plan. Coach Hedge grumbled. Would help if we knew where the mountain was. Maybe Aeolus can tell you that. The Bay Area has had a bad reputation for demigods. Old home for titans. Mount Orpheus sits over Mount Tam, where Atlas holds up the sky. I hope that's not the mountain you saw. Piper tried to remember the vista in her dreams. I don't think so. This was inland. Jason frowned at the fire like he was trying to remember something. Bad reputation. That doesn't seem right. The Bay Area. You think you've been there? Piper asked. He looked like he was almost on the edge of a breakthrough. Then the anguish came back into his eyes. I don't know. Hedge, what happened to Mount Orpheus? Hedge took another bite of paper and burger. Well, Kronos built a new palace there last summer. Big nasty place. Was going to be the headquarters for his new kingdom and all. Weren't any battles there though. Kronos marched on Manhattan, tried to take Olympus. If I remember right, he left some other titans in charge of his palace. But after Kronos got defeated in Manhattan, the whole palace just crumbled on its own. No, Jason said. Everyone looked at him. What do you mean, no? Leo asked. That's not what happened. He tensed, looking towards the cave entrance. Did you hear that? For a second, nothing. Then Piper heard it. Howls piercing the night. Chapter 34. Piper. Wolves, Piper said. They sound close. Jason rose and summoned his sword. Leo and Coach Hedge got to their feet too. Piper tried, but black spots danced before her eyes. Stay there, Jason told her. We'll protect you. She gritted her teeth. She hated feeling helpless. She didn't want anyone to protect her. First the stupid ankle, now stupid hypothermia. She wanted to be on her feet, with a dagger in her hand. Then, just outside the firelight at the entrance of the cave, she saw a pair of red eyes glowing in the dark. Okay, she thought, maybe a little protection is fine. More wolves edged into the firelight, black beasts bigger than Great Danes, with ice and snow caked on their fur. Their fangs gleamed, and their glowing red eyes looked disturbingly intelligent. The wolf in front was almost as tall as a horse, his mouth stained, as if he'd just made a fresh kill. Piper pulled her dagger out of its sheath. Then Jason stepped forward and said something in Latin. Piper didn't think a dead language would have much effect on wild animals, but the alpha wolf curled his lip. The fur stood up along his spine. One of his lieutenants tried to advance, but the alpha wolf snapped at his ear. Then all of the wolves backed into the dark. Dude, I gotta study Latin. Leo's hammer shook in his hand. What did you say, Jason? Hedge cursed. Whatever it wasn't enough. Look. The wolves were coming back, but the alpha wolf wasn't with them. They didn't attack. They waited, at least a dozen now, in a rough semicircle just outside the firelight, blocking the cave exit. The coach hefted his club. Here's the plan. I'll kill them all, and you guys escape. Coach, they'll rip you apart, Piper said. Nah, I'm good. Then Piper saw the silhouette of a man coming through the storm, wading through the wolf pack. Stick together, Jason said. They respect a pack. And Hedge, no crazy stuff. We're not leaving you or anyone else behind. Piper got a lump in her throat. She was the weak link in their pack right now. No doubt the wolves could smell her fear. She might as well be wearing a sign that said, free lunch. The wolves parted and the man stepped into the firelight. His hair was greasy and ragged, the colour of fireplace soot, topped with a crown of what looked like finger bones. His robes were tattered fur, wolf, rabbit, raccoon, deer, and several others Piper couldn't identify. The furs didn't look cured, and from the smell they weren't very fresh. His frame was live and muscular, like a distance runner's. But the most horrible thing was his face. His thin, pale skin was pulled tight over his skull. His teeth were sharpened like fangs. His eyes glowed bright red like the wolves. and they fixed on Jason with absolute hatred. "Ege," he said, "Fili Romane." "Speak English, wolfman," Hedge bellowed. The wolfman snarled, "Tell your fawn to mind his tongue, son of Rome, or he'll be my first snack." Piper remembered that fawn was the Roman name for satyr. Not exactly a helpful piece of information. Now, if she could remember who this wolf guy was in Greek mythology and how to defeat him, that she could use. The wolfman studied their little group. His nostrils twitched. "So it's true," he mused. "A child of Aphrodite, a son of Hephaestus, a fawn and a child of Rome, of Lord Jupiter no less, all together without killing each other. How interesting." "You were told about us?" Jason asked. "By whom?" The man snarled, perhaps a laugh, perhaps a challenge. "Oh, we've been patrolling for you all across the West. Demigod, hoping we'd be the first to find you. The giant king will reward me when he rises. I am Lyson, king of the wolves, and my pack is hungry." The wolves snarled in the darkness. Out of the corner of her eye, Piper saw Leo put up his hammer and slip something else from his tool belt, a glass bottle full of clear liquid. Piper racked her brain trying to place the wolf guy's name. She knew she'd heard it before, but she couldn't remember details. Lyson glared at Jason's sword. He moved to each side as if looking for an opening, but Jason's blade moved with him. "Leave," Jason ordered. "There's no food for you here." "Unless you want tofu burgers," Leo offered. Lyson bared his fangs. Apparently he wasn't a tofu fan. "If I had my way," Lyson said with regret, "I'd kill you first, son of Jupiter. Your father made me what I am. I was the powerful mortal king of Arcadia, with 50 fine sons, and Zeus slew them all with his lightning bolts." "Ha!" Coach Hedge said. "For good reason." Jason glanced over his shoulder. "Coach, you know this clown?" "I do," Piper answered. The details of the myth came back to her. A short, horrible story she and her father had laughed at over breakfast. She wasn't laughing now. "Lyson invited Zeus to dinner," she said, "but the king wasn't sure it was really Zeus. So, to test his powers, Lyson tried to feed him human flesh. Zeus got outraged. 'And kill my sons,' Lyson howled. The wolves behind him howled too. So Zeus turned him into a wolf," Piper said. They call werewolves lycanthropes. Named after him, the first werewolf. The king of wolves," Coach Hedge finished. "An immortal, smelly, vicious mutt." Lyson growled. "I will tear you apart, fawn." "Oh, you want some goat, buddy? 'Cause I'll give you goat." "Stop it," Jason said. "Lyson, you said you wanted to kill me first, but sadly, child of Rome, you are spoken for. Since this one," he waggled his claws at Piper, "has failed to kill you, you are to be delivered alive to the wolf house. One of my compatriots has asked for the honour of killing you herself." "Who?" Jason said. The Wolf King snickered. "Oh, a great admirer of yours. Apparently, you made quite an impression on her. She will take care of you soon enough, and really I cannot complain. Spilling your blood at the wolf house should mark my new territory quite well. Lupa will think twice about challenging my pack." Piper's heart tried to jump out of her chest. She didn't understand everything Lyson had said, but a woman who wanted to kill Jason. Medea, she thought. Somehow she must have survived the explosion. Piper struggled to her feet. Spots danced before her eyes again. The cave seemed to spin. "You're going to leave now," Piper said, "before we destroy you." She tried to put power into the words, but she was too weak, shivering in her blankets, pale and sweaty and barely able to hold a knife. She couldn't have looked very threatening. Lyson's red eyes crinkled with humour. "A brave try, girl. I admire that. Perhaps I'll make your end quick. Only the son of Jupiter is needed alive. The rest of you, I'm afraid, are... dinner?" At that moment, Piper knew she was going to die. But at least she'd die on her feet, fighting next to Jason. Jason took a step forward. "You're not killing anyone, Wolfman. Not without going through me." Lyson howled and extended his claws. Jason slashed at him, but his golden sword passed straight through, as if the Wolf King wasn't there. Lyson laughed. "Gold, bronze, steel, none of these are any good against my wolves, son of Jupiter." "Silver," Piper cried. "Aren't werewolves hurt by silver?" "We don't have any silver," Jason said. Wolves leapt into the firelight. Hedge charged forward with an elated woot. But Leo struck first. He threw his glass bottle and it shattered on the ground, splattering liquid all over the wolves, the unmistakable smell of gasoline. He shot a burst of fire at the puddle and a wall of flames erupted. Wolves yelped and retreated. Several caught fire and had to run back into the snow. Even Lyson looked uneasily at the barrier of flames, now separating his wolves from the demigods. "Oh, come on," Coach Hedge complained. "I can't hit them if they're way over there." Every time a wolf came closer, Leo shot a new wave of fire from his hands, but each effort seemed to make him a little more tired, and the gasoline was already dying down. "I can't summon any more gas," Leo warned. Then his face turned red. "Wow, that came out wrong. I mean the burning kind. Gonna take the tool belt a while to recharge. What you got, man?" "Nothing," Jason said. "Not even a weapon that works." "Lightning?" Piper asked. Jason concentrated, but nothing happened. "I think the snowstorm is interfering or something." "Unleash the venti," Piper said. "Then we'll have nothing to give Aeolus," Jason said. "We'll have come all this way for nothing." Lyson laughed. "I can smell your fear. A few more minutes of life, heroes. Pray to whatever gods you wish. Zeus did not grant me mercy, and you will have done from me." The flames began to sputter out. Jason cursed and dropped his sword. He crouched like he was ready to go hand to hand. Leo pulled his hammer out of his pack. Piper raised her dagger. Not much, but it was all she had. Coach Hedge hefted his club, and he was the only one who looked excited about dying. Then a ripping sound cut through the wind, like a piece of tearing cardboard. A long stick sprouted from the neck of the nearest wolf, the shaft of a silver arrow. The wolf writhed and fell, melting into a puddle of snow and shadow. More arrows. More wolves fell. The pack broke in confusion. An arrow flashed towards Lyson, but the wolf king caught it in mid-air. Then he yelled in pain. When he dropped the arrow, it left a charred, smoking gash across his palm. Another arrow caught him in the shoulder, and the wolf king staggered. "Curse them!" Lyson yelled. He growled at his pack, and the wolves turned and ran. Lyson fixed Jason with those glowing red eyes. "This isn't over, boy." The wolf king disappeared into the night. Seconds later, Piper heard more wolves baying, but the sound was different, less threatening, more like hunting dogs on the scent. A smaller white wolf burst into the cave, followed by two more. Hedge said, "Kill it?" "No," Piper said, "wait." The wolves tilted their heads and studied the campers with huge golden eyes. A heartbeat later, their masters appeared, a troop of hunters in white and grey winter camouflage, at least half a dozen. All of them carried bows with quivers of glowing silver arrows on their backs. Their faces were covered with parka hoods, but clearly they were all girls. One, a little taller than the rest, crouched in the firelight and snatched up the arrow that had wounded Lyson's hand. So close. She turned to her companions. "Phoebe, stay with me. Watch the entrance. The rest of you, follow Lyson. We can't lose him now. I'll catch up with you." The other hunters mumbled agreement and disappeared, heading after Lyson's pack. The girl in white turned towards them, her face still hidden in her parka hood. "We've been following that demon's trail for over a week. Is everyone all right? No one got bit?" Jason stood frozen, staring at the girl. Piper realised something about her voice sounded familiar. It was hard to pin down, but the way she spoke, the way she formed her words, reminded her of Jason. "You're her," Piper guessed. "You're Thalia." The girl tensed. Piper was afraid she might draw her bow, but instead she pulled down her parka hood. Her hair was spiky black, with a silver tiara across her brow. Her face had a super healthy glow to it, as if she were a little more than human, and her eyes were brilliant blue. She was the girl from Jason's photograph. "Do I know you?" Thalia asked. Piper took a breath. "This might be a shock, but, Thalia." Jason stepped forward, his voice trembling. "I'm Jason, your brother." Chapter 35. Leo. Leo figured he had the worst luck in the group, and that was saying a lot. Why didn't he get to have the long-lost sister or the movie star dad who needed rescuing? All he got was a tool belt and a dragon that broke down halfway through the quest. Maybe it was the stupid curse of the Hephaestus cabin, but Leo didn't think so. His life had been unlucky way before he got to camp. 1,000 years from now, when this quest was being told around a campfire, he figured people would talk about how brave Jason, beautiful Piper, and their sidekick, Flaming Valdez, who accompanied them with a bag of magic screwdrivers and occasionally fixed tofu burgers. If that wasn't bad enough, Leo fell in love with every girl he saw, as long as she was totally out of his league. When he first saw Thalia, Leo immediately thought she was way too pretty to be Jason's sister. Then he thought he'd better not say that or he'd get in trouble. He liked her dark hair, her blue eyes and her confident attitude. She looked like the kind of girl who could stomp anybody on the ball court or the battlefield and wouldn't give Leo the time of day. Just Leo's type. For a minute, Jason and Thalia faced each other, stunned. Then Thalia rushed forward and hugged him. "My gods, she told me you were dead." She gripped Jason's face and seemed to be examining everything about it. "Thank Artemis, it is you. That little scar on your lip. You tried to eat a stapler when you were 2. Leo laughed. Seriously? Hedge nodded like he approved of Jason's taste. Staplers. Excellent source of iron. Wait, Jason stammered. Who told you I was dead? What happened? At the cave entrance, one of the white wolves barked. Thalia looked back at the wolf and nodded, but she kept her hands on Jason's face, like she was afraid he might vanish. My wolf is telling me I don't have much time, and she's right. But we have to talk. Let's sit. Piper did better than that. She collapsed. She would have cracked her head on the cave floor if Hedge hadn't caught her. Thalia rushed over. What's wrong with her? Never mind. I see. Hypothermia. Ankle. She frowned at the satyr. Don't you know nature healing? Hedge scoffed. Why do you think she looks this good? Can't you smell the Gatorade? Thalia looked at Leo for the first time, and of course it was an accusatory glare. Like, why did you let the goat be a doctor? As if that was Leo's fault. You and the satyr, Thalia ordered. Take this girl to my friend at the entrance. Phoebe's an excellent healer. It's cold out there, Hedge said. I'll freeze my horns off. But Leo knew when they weren't wanted. Come on, Hedge. These two need time to talk. Fine, the satyr muttered. Didn't even get to brain anybody. Hedge carried Piper towards the entrance. Leo was about to follow when Jason called, Actually, man, could you stick around? Leo saw something in Jason's eyes he didn't expect. Jason was asking for support. He wanted somebody else there. He was scared. Leo grinned. Sticking around is my speciality. Thalia didn't look too happy about it, but the 3 of them sat at the fire. For a few minutes, nobody spoke. Jason studied his sister like she was a scary device, one that might explode if handled incorrectly. Thalia seemed more at ease, as if she were used to stumbling across stranger things than long-lost relatives. But still she regarded Jason in a kind of amazed trance, maybe remembering a little 2-year-old who tried to eat a stapler. Leo took a few pieces of copper wire out of his pockets and twisted them together. Finally, he couldn't stand the silence. So, the Hunters of Artemis, this whole not dating thing, is that like always or more of a seasonal thing or what? Thalia stared at him as if he'd just evolved from pond scum. Yeah, he was definitely liking this girl. Jason kicked him in the shin. Don't mind Leo, he's just trying to break the ice, but Thalia, what happened to our family? Who told you I was dead? Thalia tugged at a silver bracelet on her wrist. In the firelight, in her winter camouflage, she almost looked like Keone, the snow princess, just as cold and beautiful. Do you remember anything? She asked. Jason shook his head. I woke up 3 days ago on a bus with Leo and Piper. Which wasn't our fault, Leo added hastily. Hera stole his memories. Thalia tensed. Hera? How do you know that? Jason explained about their quest, the prophecy at camp, Hera getting imprisoned, the giant taking Piper's dad in the winter solstice deadline. Leo chimed in to add the important stuff, how he'd fixed the bronze dragon, could throw fireballs and made excellent tacos. Thalia was a good listener. Nothing seemed to surprise her. The monsters, the prophecies, the dead rising. But when Jason mentioned King Midas, she cursed in ancient Greek. I knew we should have burned down his mansion, she said. That man's a menace. But we were so intent on following Lyson. Well, I'm glad you got away. So, Hera's been, hiding you all these years? I don't know. Jason brought out the photo from his pocket. She left me just enough memory to recognise your face. Thalia looked at the picture and her expression softened. I'd forgotten about that. I left it in cabin 1, didn't I? Jason nodded. I think Hera wanted for us to meet. When we landed here at this cave, I had a feeling it was important, like I knew you were close by. Is that crazy? Nah, Leo assured him. We were absolutely destined to meet your hot sister. Thalia ignored him. Probably she just didn't want to let on how much Leo impressed her. Jason, she said, when you're dealing with the gods, nothing is too crazy. But you can't trust Hera, especially since we're children of Zeus. She hates all children of Zeus. But she said something about Zeus giving her my life as a peace offering. Does that make any sense? The colour drained from Thalia's face. Oh, gods. Mother wouldn't have. You don't remember? No, of course you don't. What? Jason asked. Thalia's features seemed to grow older in the firelight, like her immortality wasn't working so well. Jason, I'm not sure how to say this. Our mum wasn't exactly stable. She caught Zeus's eye because she was a television actress, and she was beautiful, but she didn't handle the fame well. She drank, pulled stupid stunts. She was always in the tabloids. She could never get enough attention. Even before you were born, she and I argued all the time. She knew Dad was Zeus, and I think that was too much for her to take. It was like the ultimate achievement for her to attract the Lord of the Sky, and she couldn't accept it when he left. The thing about the gods, well, They don't hang around. Leo remembered his own mum, the way she'd assured him over and over that his dad would be back someday, but she'd never acted mad about it. She didn't seem to want her Festus for herself, only so Leo could know his father. She dealt with working a dead-end job, living in a tiny apartment, never having enough money, and she'd seemed fine with it. As long as she had Leo, she always said, life would be okay. He watched Jason's face, looking more and more devastated as Thalia described their mum, and for once, Leo didn't feel jealous of his friend. Leo might have lost his mum. He might have had some hard times, but at least he remembered her. He found himself tapping out a Morse code message on his knee. Love you. He felt bad for Jason, not having memories like that, not having anything to fall back on. So, Jason didn't seem able to finish the question. Jason, you've got friends, Leo told him. Now you've got a sister. You're not alone. Thalia offered her hand and Jason took it. When I was about 7, she said, Zeus started visiting Mum again. I think he felt bad about wrecking her life and he seemed different somehow, a little older and sterner, more fatherly towards me. For a while, Mum improved. She loved having Zeus around, bringing her presents, causing the sky to rumble. She always wanted more attention. That's the year you were born. Mum, well, I never got along with her, but you gave me a reason to hang around. You were so cute, and I didn't trust Mum to look after you. Of course, Zeus eventually stopped coming by again. He probably couldn't stand Mum's demands anymore, always pestering him to let her visit Olympus, or to make her immortal or eternally beautiful. When he left for good, Mum got more and more unstable. That was about the time the monsters started attacking me. Mum blamed Hera. She claimed the goddess was coming after you too, but that Hera had barely tolerated my birth. But 2 demigod children from the same family was too big an insult. Mum even said she hadn't wanted to name you Jason, but Zeus insisted, as a way to appease Hera because the goddess liked that name. I didn't know what to believe. Leo fiddled with his copper wires. He felt like an intruder. He shouldn't be listening to this. But it also made him feel like he was getting to know Jason for the first time. Like maybe being here now made up for those 4 months at Wilderness School, when Leo had just imagined they'd had a friendship. How did you guys get separated? He asked. Thalia squeezed her brother's hand. If I'd known you were alive, gods, things would have been so different. But when you were 2, Mum packed us in the car for a family vacation. We drove up north, towards the wine country, to this park she wanted to show us. I remember thinking it was strange because Mum never took us anywhere, and she was acting super nervous. I was holding your hand, walking you towards this big building in the middle of the park, and she took a shaky breath. Mum told me to go back to the car and get the picnic basket. I didn't want to leave you alone with her, but it was only for a few minutes. When I came back, Mum was kneeling on the stone steps, hugging herself and crying. She said you were gone. She said Hera claimed you and you were as good as dead. I didn't know what she'd done. I was afraid she completely lost her mind. I ran all over the place looking for you, but you just vanished. She had to drag me away, kicking and screaming. For the next few days I was hysterical. I don't remember everything, but I called the police on Mum, and they questioned her for a long time. Afterwards we fought. She told me I'd betrayed her, that I should support her, like she was the only one who mattered. Finally, I couldn't stand it. Your disappearance was the last straw. I ran away from home, and I never went back, not even when Mum died a few years ago. I thought you were gone forever. I never told anyone about you, not even Annabeth or Luke, my 2 best friends. It was just too painful. Chiron knew. Jason's voice sounded far away. When I got to camp, he took one look at me and said, "You should be dead." That doesn't make sense, Thalia insisted. I never told him. Hey, Leo said. Important thing is you've got each other now, right? You 2 are lucky. Thalia nodded. Leo's right. Look at you. You're my age. You've grown up. But where have I been? Jason said. How could I be missing all that time? And the Roman stuff? Thalia frowned. The Roman stuff? Your brother speaks Latin, Leo said. He calls gods by the Roman names. And he's got tattoos. Leo pointed out the marks on Jason's arm. Then he gave Thalia the rundown about the other weird stuff that had happened. Boreas turning into Aquilon, Lyson calling Jason a child of Rome, and the wolves backing off when Jason spoke Latin to them. Thalia plucked her bowstring. Latin. Zeus sometimes spoke Latin. The second time he stayed with Mum. Like I said, he seemed different, more formal. You think he was in his Roman aspect? Jason asked. And that's why I think of myself as a child of Jupiter? Possibly, Thalia said. I've never heard of something like that happening, but it might explain why you think in Roman terms, why you can speak Latin rather than ancient Greek. That would make you unique. Still, it doesn't explain how you survived without Camp Half-Blood. A child of Zeus or Jupiter, or whatever you want to call him. You would have been hounded by monsters.
If you were on your own, you should have died years ago. I know I wouldn't have been able to survive without friends. You would have needed training, a safe haven." "He wasn't alone," Leo blurted out. "We've heard about others like him." Thalia looked at him strangely. "What do you mean?" Leo told her about the slashed-up purple shirt in Medea's department store and the story the Cyclopses told about the child of Mercury who spoke Latin. "Isn't there anywhere else for demigods?" Leo asked. "I mean, besides Camp Half-Blood, maybe some crazy Latin teacher has been abducting children of the gods or something, making them think like Romans." As soon as he said it, Leo realised how stupid the idea sounded. Thalia's dazzling blue eyes studied him intently, making him feel like a suspect in a lineup. "I've been all over the country," Thalia mused. "I've never seen evidence of a crazy Latin teacher or demigods in purple shirts. Still," her voice trailed off, like she'd just had a troubling thought. "What?" Jason asked. Thalia shook her head. "I'll have to talk to the goddess. Maybe Artemis will guide us." "She's still talking to you?" Jason asked. "Most of the gods have gone silent." "Artemis follows her own rules," Thalia said. "She has to be careful not to let Zeus know, but she thinks Zeus is being ridiculous closing Olympus. She's the one who set us on the trail of Lyson. She said we'd find a lead to a missing friend of ours." "Percy Jackson," Leo guessed. "The guy Annabeth is looking for." Thalia nodded, her face full of concern. Leo wondered if anyone had ever looked that worried all the times he'd disappeared. He kind of doubted it. "So what would Lyson have to do with it?" Leo asked. "How does it connect to us?" "We need to find out soon," Thalia admitted. "If your deadline is tomorrow, we're wasting time. Aeolus could tell you." The white wolf appeared again at the doorway and yipped insistently. "I have to get moving," Thalia stood. "Otherwise, I'll lose the other hunter's trail. First, though, I'll take you to Aeolus's palace. If you can't..." "It's okay," Jason said, though he sounded kind of distressed. "Oh, please." Thalia smiled and helped him up. "I haven't had a brother in years. I think I can stand a few minutes with you before you get annoying. Now, let's go." Chapter 36. Leo. When Leo saw how well Piper and Hedge were being treated, he was thoroughly offended. He'd imagined them freezing their hindquarters off in the snow, but the hunter, Phoebe, had set up this silver tent pavilion thing right outside the cave. How she'd done it so fast, Leo had no idea, but inside was a kerosene heater, keeping them toasty warm and a bunch of comfy throw pillows. Piper looked back to normal, decked out in a new parka, gloves and camo pants, like a hunter. She and Hedge and Phoebe were kicking back, drinking hot chocolate. "Oh, no way," Leo said. "We've been sitting in a cave and you get the luxury tent? Somebody give me hypothermia. I want hot chocolate and a parka." Phoebe sniffed. "Boys," she said, like it was the worst insult she could think of. "It's all right, Phoebe," Thalia said. "They'll need extra coats, and I think we can spare some chocolate." Phoebe grumbled, but soon Leo and Jason were also dressed in silvery winter clothes that were incredibly lightweight and warm. The hot chocolate was first rate. "Cheers," said Coach Hedge. He crunched down his plastic thermos cup. "That cannot be good for your intestines," Leo said. Thalia patted Piper on the back. "You up for moving?" Piper nodded. "Thanks to Phoebe, yeah. You guys are really good at this wilderness survival thing. I feel like I could run 10 miles. Thalia winked at Jason. "She's tough for a child of Aphrodite. I like this one." "Hey, I could run 10 miles too," Leo volunteered. "Tough Hephaestus kid here. Let's hit it." Naturally, Thalia ignored him. It took Phoebe exactly 6 seconds to break camp, which Leo could not believe. The tent self-collapsed into a square the size of a pack of chewing gum. Leo wanted to ask her for the blueprints, but they didn't have time. Thalia ran uphill through the snow, hugging a tiny little path on the side of the mountain, and soon Leo was regretting trying to look macho because the hunters left him in the dust. Coach Hedge leapt around like a happy mountain goat, coaxing them on like he used to do on track days at school. "Come on, Valdez, pick up the pace. Let's chant, 'I've got a girl in Kalamazoo.'" "Let's not," Thalia snapped. So they ran in silence. Leo fell in next to Jason at the back of the group. "How you doing, man?" Jason's expression was enough of an answer. "Not good." "Thalia takes it so calmly," Jason said, "like it's no big deal that I appeared. I didn't know what I was expecting, but she's not like me. She seems so much more together." "Hey, she's not fighting amnesia," Leo said. "Plus, she's had more time to get used to the whole demigod thing. You fight monsters and talk to gods for a while, you probably get used to surprises." "Maybe," Jason said. "I just wish I understood what happened when I was 2. Why my mum got rid of me. Thalia ran away because of me. Hey, whatever's happened, it wasn't your fault. And your sister is pretty cool. She's a lot like you." Jason took that in silence. Leo wondered if he'd said the right things. He wanted to make Jason feel better, but this was way outside his comfort zone. Leo wished he could reach inside his tool belt and pick just the right wet wrench to fix Jason's memory. Maybe a little hammer, bonk the sticking spot and make everything run right. That would be a lot easier than trying to talk it through. Not good with organic life forms. Thanks for those inherited traits, Dad. He was so lost in thought, he didn't realise the hunters had stopped. He slammed into Thalia and nearly sent them both down the side of the mountain the hard way. Fortunately, the hunter was light on her feet. She steadied them both and then pointed up. That, Leo choked, is a really large rock. They stood near the summit of Pike's Peak. Below them, the world was blanketed in clouds. The air was so thin, Leo could hardly breathe. Night had set in, but a full moon shone and the stars were incredible. Stretching out to the north and south, peaks of other mountains rose from the clouds like islands or teeth. But the real show was above them. Hovering in the sky, about a quarter-mile away, was a massive free-floating island of glowing purple stone. It was hard to judge its size, but Leo figured it was at least as wide as a football stadium, and just as tall. The sides were rugged cliffs, riddled with caves, and every once in a while a gust of wind burst out with a sound like a pipe organ blast. And the top of the rock, brass walls, ringed some kind of a fortress. The only thing connecting Pike's Peak to the floating island was a narrow bridge of ice that glistened in the moonlight. Then Leo realised the bridge wasn't exactly ice, because it wasn't solid. As the winds changed direction, the bridge snaked around, blurring and thinning in some places, even breaking into a dotted line like the vapour trail of a plane. "We're not seriously crossing that," Leo said. Thalia shrugged. "I'm not a big fan of heights, I'll admit, but if you want to get to Aeolus's fortress, this is the only way." "Is the fortress always hanging there?" Piper asked. "How can people not notice it, sitting on top of Pike's Peak?" "The mist," Thalia said. "Still, mortals do notice it indirectly. Some days, Pike's Peak looks purple. People say it's a trick of the light, but actually it's the colour of Aeolus's palace, reflecting off the mountain face." "It's enormous," Jason said. Thalia laughed. "You should see Olympus, little brother." "You're serious? You've been there?" Thalia grimaced as if it wasn't a good memory. "We should go across in 2 different groups. The bridge is fragile." "That's reassuring," Leo said. "Jason, can't you just fly us up there?" Thalia laughed, and then she seemed to realise Leo's question wasn't a joke. "Wait, Jason, you can fly?" Jason gazed up at the floating fortress. "Well, sort of. More like I can control the winds. But the winds up here are so strong. Not sure I'd want to try." "Thalia, you mean you can't fly?" For a second, Thalia looked genuinely afraid, and then she got her expression under control. Leo realised she was a lot more scared of heights than she was letting on. "Truthfully," she said, "I've never tried. Might be better if we stuck to the bridge." Coach Hedge tapped the ice vapour trail with his hoof, and then jumped onto the bridge. Amazingly, it held his weight. "Easy, I'll go first. Piper, come on, girl, I'll give you a hand." "No, that's okay," Piper started to say, but the coach grabbed her hand and dragged her up the bridge. When they were about halfway, the bridge still seemed to be holding them just fine. Thalia turned to her hunter friend. "Phoebe, I'll be back soon. Go find the others. Tell them I'm on my way." "You sure?" Phoebe narrowed her eyes at Leo and Jason, like they might kidnap Thalia or something. "It's fine," Thalia promised. Phoebe nodded reluctantly and then raced down the mountain path, the white wolves at her heels. "Jason, Leo, just be careful where you step," Thalia said. It hardly ever breaks." "It hasn't met me yet," Leo muttered, but he and Jason led the way up the bridge. Halfway up, things went wrong, and of course it was Leo's fault. Piper and Hedge had already made it safely to the top and were waving at them, encouraging them to keep climbing. But Leo got distracted. He was thinking about bridges, how he would design something way more stable than this shifting ice vapour business if this were his palace. He was pondering braces and support columns, and then a sudden revelation stopped him in his tracks. "Why do they have a bridge?" he asked. Thalia frowned. "Leo, this isn't a good place to stop. What do you mean?" "They're wind spirits," Leo said. "Can't they fly?" "Yes, but sometimes they need a way to connect to the world below. So the bridge isn't always here?" Leo asked. Thalia shook her head. "The wind spirits don't like to anchor to the earth, but sometimes it's necessary. Like now, they know you're coming." Leo's mind was racing. He was so excited, he could almost feel his body's temperature rising. He couldn't quite put his thoughts into words, but he knew he was onto something important. "Leo," Jason said, "what are you thinking?" "Oh, gods," Thalia said. "Keep moving, look at your feet." Leo shuffled backwards. With horror, he realised his body temperature really was rising. just as it had years ago at that picnic table under the pecan tree, when his anger had got away from him. Now excitement was causing the reaction. His trousers steamed in the cold air. His shoes were literally smoking, and the bridge didn't like it. The ice was thinning. "Leo, stop it," Jason warned. "You're going to melt it." "I'll try," Leo said, but his body was overheating on its own, running as fast as his thoughts. "Listen, Jason, what did Hera call you in that dream?" "She called you a bridge." "Leo, seriously, cool down," Thalia said. I don't what you're thinking about, but the bridge is..." "Just listen," Leo insisted. "If Jason is a bridge, what's he connecting? Maybe two different places that normally don't get along, like the air palace and the ground. You had to be somewhere before this, right? And Hera said you were an exchange." "An exchange?" Thalia's eyes widened. "Oh, gods." Jason frowned. "What are you two talking about?" Thalia murmured something like a prayer. "I understand now why Artemis sent me here. Jason, she told me to hunt for Lyson and I would find a clue about Percy. You are the clue. Artemis wanted us to meet so I could hear your story." "I don't understand," he protested. "I don't have a story. I don't remember anything." "But Leo's right," Thalia said. "It's all connected. If we just knew where... Leo snapped his fingers. "Jason, what did you call that place in your dream? That ruined house? The Wolf House?" Thalia nearly choked. "The Wolf House? Jason, why didn't you tell me that? That's where they're keeping Hera." "You know where it is?" Jason asked. Then the bridge dissolved. Leo would have fallen to his death, but Jason grabbed his coat and pulled him to safety. The two of them scrambled up the bridge, and when they turned, Thalia was on the other side of a 30-foot chasm. The bridge was continuing to melt. "Go!" Thalia shouted, backing down the bridge as it crumbled. "Find out where the giant is keeping Piper's dad. Save him. I'll take the hunters to the Wolf House and hold it until you get there. We can do both." "But where is the Wolf House?" Jason shouted. "You know where it is, little brother." She was so far away now that they could barely hear her voice over the wind. Leo was pretty sure she said, "I'll see you there, I promise." Then she turned and raced down the dissolving bridge. Leo and Jason had no time to stand around. They climbed for their lives, the ice vapour thinning under their feet. Several times Jason grabbed Leo and used the winds to keep them aloft, but it was more like bungee jumping than flying. When they reached the floating island, Piper and Coach Hedge pulled them aboard just as the last of the vapour bridge vanished. They stood grasping for breath at the base of a stone stairway, chiselled into the side of the cliff, leading up to the fortress. Leo looked back down. The tops of Pike's Peak floated below them in a sea of clouds, but there was no sign of Thalia, and Leo had just burned their only exit. "What happened?" Piper demanded. "Leo, why are your clothes smoking?" "I got a little heated," he gasped. "Sorry, Jason. Honest, I didn't..." "It's all right," Jason said, but his expression was grim. "We've got less than 24 hours to rescue a goddess and Piper's dad. Let's go see the King of the Winds."